Something dark and scary.
It was a dark and wet night as Lisa walked down the streets of a familiar part of town. Her soft crimson ring blue eyes were wide behind her plastic and metal framed glasses. Her long, rain-soaked cherry blonde hair hung heavily in the downpour that fell upon and around her, making her slouch while she walked. Her tattered green jean jacket hugged her curves tightly, but there was enough room to breathe. Her black striped pants framed her Damani boots. She was soaked as raindrops slithered like tiny serpents down her face. The aimless walk she was taking seemed to last forever. It seemed to get colder, wetter, and darker between each step. The air smelled of wet grass, pine, and concrete. As she walked, she came upon a small curved place. It was a basketball court next to a playground. She stood under the structure and pulled one of her self-rolled cigarettes out of her tin cigarette case and lit it with one of her matches, squeezing the matchbox against the neck of the match. She pulled the match away and it began to dance with a small yellow flame. The smell of sapphire coated the wet air that threatened to push the rain into the basketball court. She could hear crickets as she was inhaling the smoke through her mouth and exhaling through her nostrils. When she was about halfway finished with her cigarette, she began walking again, cupping her hand around her cigarette as she smoked the rest of it. The walk continued on through another park within a time span that felt like no more than 20 minutes. As she crept closer to the park, she thought she saw an umbrella at the edge of the park. Several steps later, she had come to find she was right. It was a red umbrella with small white polka dots all over it. The frame was metal, but the handle was made of wood. She opened it carefully as she could, but it roared open and shielded her from the rain. It seemed to have more coverage than she thought it would. She assumed 3 people could keep their heads dry underneath it. The grass was climbing onto her Damanis while she walked through the park. The ground made a smelly squish with each step. The lights in the park were still on, making the travel to a warm place less dark, as she could see the street lights not too far from the park. It was also a sign that midnight had not yet approached her time zone. Soon, Lisa had walked by a bench. A man with long jet black hair covering his face and wearing a dark green trench coat was leaning on the back of a cracked pale green painted bench. He stood up straight as she edged closer. He spoke to her suddenly in a calm voice. "Hello there, ma'am." She flinched and said shyly,
"Oh, hello."
"I'm sorry, Lisa. I didn't mean to frighten you. You probably won't recognize me because my hair won't stay out of my face. But I'm the guy who's going to move into the apartment 3 doors down from you, on the end of the building."
"Oh, right. I heard about you. My apartment manager said some man with hair in his face was applying for a rental of a murder apartment."
"Murder apartment?" "I didn't know anyone was murdered in the apartment," Jay said, followed by giving an odd giggle. Lisa stood there for a moment, saying nothing. She was imagining that Jay must be very handsome under all that hair. His gentle but raspy voice was attractive to her. so she thought he would look as good as he sounded. She was about to say something when he spoke again after what seemed like forever.
Mind
if I, accompany you on your walk, Lisa? He asked in a polite and thoughtful tone. She agreed to let him walk under the crimson red and snow white umbrella with her. They walked and chatted a while. So, the dude that murdered your neighbor was really Jeff the Killer? Jay asked, snickering. Lisa laughed.
Yeah, the cop that was on the scene that night, my friend, Officer Crump, showed me the crime scene. He knows I love gore. Plus, I didn't really know the neighbor all that well, so it was okay. But what I saw was the goriest and bloodiest thing I have ever seen. There were 3 bodies, hacked and mangled into more than 3 pieces. A man, his wife, and daughter. There was a note on the wall written in blood.
Go to sleep, Jay purred in a voice that sent a chill down Lisa's spine.
Jay, that was creepy.
She whined.
Don't do that again.
Jay just giggled. Then acted like he didn't just strike fear in her and said, Huh? I guess. By the look in your eyes, the words were, go to sleep. His voice was soft and gentle this time when he said those 3 words that frightened the girl not even a minute before this time. She punched him in the arm gently and said,
Would you like to come up to my apartment? You know, since we're neighbors, I'd like to get to know you.
Yeah, I like that, said Jay, using the same creepy purring tone he used to say the Jeff the Killer catchphrase. But this time, it made Lisa giggle. It was not long before they reached the end of the road, which was right at a cul-de-sac where the apartments are. They walked through the sticky, wet grass, then upstairs to her apartment. Lisa unlocked the door and stepped inside, Jay following her from behind. When they walked into her living room, she turned around. She noticed that underneath Jay's trench coat was a pair of black jeans and black and white shoes. He sat down on the couch, legs open slightly. She sat down next to him and handed him a bottle of tea. He put it up to where she assumed were his lips. He used the bottle to part his hair to reveal only his lips. His lips were a gray red, and in this light, his eyes glowed bright blue through his dark hair. What she could see of his features, his eyes and lips, he was beautiful. She pecked his lips, then lowered her head, giving him oral. Once she was done, he thanked her. Then he stood up and asked could he use her restroom. She showed him the way. He walked in and shut the door. Rustling of fabric was heard, and then trickling and splashing sounds were followed. Then the door opened up. The light was off and Jay could not be seen. In fact, it seemed as though no one was in there. She stepped inside and the door slammed behind her. She pulled her lighter out of her pocket and flicked it on. There, before her stood a monster. Long black hair, bright blue eyes.
Jay, is that you?
A maniacal grin, with gashes in his cheeks forcing his smile even wider. His nose was 2 narrowing and broadening slits just above his lips. He then spoke. It was Jay's voice. Jay is not my name. Jay is an initial. My name is Jeffrey. I am the cause of your fall. Thanks for the BJ. Very good. Very good.
No way. I just blew Jeff the killer.
Lisa said, sounding horrified. It makes you a legend, doesn't it? He winked. Lisa was at loss of words. Jeff advanced towards her. She froze as he was nose to nose with her. Before she had time to do anything, she began gasping for air as blood began dribbling out of her mouth. She looked down. There was a blade in her gut. Jeff twisted it, and she began vomiting blood. Jeff jerked it upward and shoved his hand inside. He reached in as she screamed and puked blood and ripped out her intestines. He wrapped him around her arms and neck. He licked the blood off of her cheek and slid his tongue up her cheek into her ear. He used that same ominous purring voice as he said, "Go to sleep."